So good evening, welcome back. We are learning Azure Virtual Networks, and last session we learned about how to implement virtual network, and again how to implement subnets and how to take control of the subnets using NSGs, network security groups, how to control inbound traffic, how to control outbound traffic. And today we'll move ahead with DNS. So this DNS, you must be having an idea, right? What is DNS? So domain naming service we call it as. So here we have two types of domains and custom domains. We will see all, these are all part of your DNS sessions only. And to start with the custom domain, right? We spoke about custom domain. Did we talk about custom domain initially? When we were talking about AD, did we talk about that? I showed you to going to my domain and adding a custom domain of my own company's, right? The same thing. There is no much difference here. So what I expect from you is like you should have an idea about what is DNS, how are we going to use it. But ultimately, we have a dedicated DNS chapter on serverless computing when we go forward, right? In serverless computing, maybe 9th module, I guess. So where we'll be learning more about implementing custom DNS for the applications. And this one I already spoke about initially when I talked about AD, right? If you can refer your AD session, I think you can look back all these things. Like I showed you how to implement custom domains in your AD, right? Let me do an review here, then you'll get it. Right? So once you go to your portal.com, right, and again go to your Azure AD. There itself I was showing you how to implement custom domains, like purchasing a domain from some registrar and adding your text record and again verifying it. I also shared you the labs, right? So if you go here, I was talking about how to get your custom domain, right? By going here and so here you see custom domain, right? And here add a custom domain means you need to purchase your domain from a registrar, and here you should add it. This topic I covered it in Azure AD, right? And you can refer it back. But ultimately, what I want you to understand is DNS itself, right? So when you say DNS, so this DNS is used in both the ways. Like in Windows world we use it, and internet world also we can use it, right? Internet means again you want to participate, means your service wants to participate in internet world, like this is my service, and if I want to host my service in the internet, then I should purchase an internet based public IP, and this public IP will be having a name, and that name is resolvable by DNS, like wilmartech.com. Assume that's my company. I bought it from bluehost.com, and when I buy it, they have given me one public IP, and at the same time they have given me some DNS name for that, nothing but wilmartech.com, right? That's a domain name. And anybody trying to reach me, right, on the internet, they will hit wilmartech.com. The moment they hit wilmartech.com, what happens is there is an organization called IANA, right? Internet Assigned Naming Authority we call it as, and these are the people who will sell the IPs and the DNS entries. So this is an organization which will maintain IP addresses versus DNS information. They are the persons who will help us get our DNS name for my company. So likewise, what happens once you register your domain with them, then what happens to wilmartech.com, right? So you'll have a dot here first. Initially DNS starts from a dot, so in this dot you will have all the top level domains. These are all, we call it as TLDs, top level domains, and one will be .com and one will be .mil, .gov, right? Based on the location and based on CA, right? And based on biz. Nowadays business people are going with this. Likewise, you have n number of namespaces here, right? Wherever you register your company, here I have registered as wilmartech.com. right? So when I registered my company, means when I bought an IP for my domain, my IP is registered under .com here, .com domain. Then what happens if any user is trying to access wilmatech.com? First, what happens? It will check the local DNS. Means it will check for anywhere. If I type it from here, it will first go to my local ISP provider. There it will check it whether DNS entry is available for my wilmatech.com or not. If it is not, well, then what happens? It will directly, my browser will directly go to here. Hey, do you have anybody with .com? And then the .com says, yeah, here you go, .com. And then the .com address will come to my browser, and my browser again will go back, hey, do you have anybody with this name, like wilmatech.com? Then the .com says, yeah, let me find out. And then it will have some IP address, public IP, right? And then what happens? The .com says, yeah, this is the name matching with this IP. Here is the IP. Likewise, it will give back the IP to my browser, and then my browser will hit that IP and connects to this wilmatech.com. So that's all about resolution. Means resolution is converting IP to name to IP. Means whenever this is all digital world, right? So if it's all digital world, I am available in the web, actually, internet, right? So here I am located, right? So this is my spot in the internet, and this is again, that spot has some physical representation, but nothing but public IP, I call it as. And this public IP will have a DNS entry, and this DNS entry is maintained by my service provider, Bluehost, and this Bluehost people have bought an IP from internet, IANA, right, and sold me. Then what happens accordingly? Whenever I hit or anybody hits my public IP, it will first go to the top level domain, and there it will search for the .com. Then it will get the domain name, and then it will get resolved. Ultimately, what happens is DNS is a service, right? So whenever I say DNS, so this DNS, I told you, one is used within the LAN, and the other is used in the internet world, Windows world and internet world, I told you. So if you want to use it in your company, then you are using it for this purpose. If you want to start your own internet company, then you are using it in this manner. Means, for example, you want to establish a company like Microsoft.com or any web hosting company. If you want to start with, then you will be maintaining your own DNS and associated with all DNS entries with you. But ultimately, DNS is a service which will have information about the name and IP. With this information, what it can do, whoever is looking for the name, it will give them the IP, and whoever is looking for the IP, it will give them the name. So likewise, it will have an entry. That entry is nothing but a record, we call it as. So that record is maintained by people, means company. So if I want to maintain my own DNS, for example, for my own company, I can go for that. I can usually, I told you, right, Windows world, right? In Windows world, this will happen, right? Windows world. So in Windows world, you need DNS plus AD. So DNS plus AD is again compulsory. This is again one part of the LAN. And internet, it is different, but same thing applies. There also same thing. So ultimately, DNS plays only one role of resolver. It will resolve name to IP or IP to name. That's it. Its main purpose is only resolving, converting name to IP, IP to name. Simple. So that way, if that is the case, why do I want to use DNS? I told you, Windows world, right? Windows world requires DNS, and internet world also require DNS. Both are separate things here. So you should not mix up these two things. So wherever you want to use it, you can use it, definitely, right? I told you, if you want to host a web hosting company, yeah, definitely you will have to stand up your own DNS. Or if you want to have AD in your company, then definitely you need to call it as Windows world, and then you need a DNS. So these are the two different scenarios you need DNS. And when that is the case, for example, I told you DNS is a name resolver, and DNS will have records. We call it as records. So here one is called forward lookup zone. It will have zone actually, and here it will have reverse lookup zone. So this forward lookup zone will have a record, and reverse lookup zone will also have a record. So record is nothing but a file, and that file can be a record, text record. Different records are there, right, in DNS. So if this record will have, what will it have? It will have, we call it as a record, and this is called PTR record, pointer record. And this a record will have name to IP address information, and this PTR record will have IP address to name. So this way DNSs are used. Whenever you stand up a DNS, you will maintain records, and that record will actually have the details. What is the detail? Name to IP information, IP to name information. So likewise, if you are planning to stand up a DNS, you can very well stand up, right? You can very well stand up by going to Azure, and from here itself you can bring your own DNS here, right? Any questions here? DNS. So here you can use your DNS zones and private DNS zones, but ultimately idea behind this is like, what is DNS? DNS is again a name resolver service which will convert IPs to names, names to IPs. Simple. With the help of zones, and zone will contain the forward lookup zone and the reverse lookup zone, and both will have the records. Forward lookup zone will have a record, and reverse lookup zone will have pointer record. A record is useful for converting name to IP, and pointer record is useful for converting IP to name. Means whenever any user is typing, right? For example, here I'm a user. So when I'm typing something like Amazon.com, assume, right? When I'm typing this, do I know the IP address of this site? And can I remember that IP address? I can't. As a human being, I can't remember the IP. But systems, computers are good at remembering numbers and working with numbers. They're faster rather than names. And DNS will help that gap, actually fill that gap. So it will help human beings to remember names rather than IPs, and it will help systems to use IPs rather than names. That's the reason we use DNS here. So if I type Amazon.com, what is happening now? My browser actually contacted .com, and it asks for, hey, do you have anybody with this Amazon? Then the top level domain says, yeah, wait, let me see my records, and it has searched the records and found a record with the name a record matching Amazon.com, and it answered my browser, right? It answered my browser, and that's the reason my browser is showing me some information here, right? So this is how resolution happens behind the scenes, and this is possible with the help of DNS records. And likewise, for every service, any service, if you want to host locally or in internet world, you need to rely on DNS service, right? Likewise, what happens when I say DNS, there are three types of DNS. At least in cloud, we have three types. So one we call it as custom DNS, right? And then we call it as DNS zones, and then we have private DNS. Three types of DNS are there in Azure. So here, this one we will use it for Azure AD and apps, right? We will use custom DNS for Azure AD and applications, and DNS is for external world. Like I told you, right? If I want to start my own company, and if I want to host any records interfacing to internet, if I want to host my application in the internet world, then definitely I have to rely on DNS zones. These are external, and this private DNS is internal, and this is internal. And when I say internal, this is purely internal within the VNets only. VNet 1 and VNet 2 likewise only between VNets in the Azure. That time what I will do, I will use private DNS, right? Any questions here? Are you guys with me? Okay. So yeah, so this one, the other day what we did, we have seen this one. Custom DNS, we checked it when we learned about Azure AD. And apps, we will learn it when we reach apps, right? So here DNS, I cannot use it, but I can show you just like how to create it, right? So here the only thing is you need to just come here, right, and say DNS, right, and create DNS. So this DNS is useful for creating zones, and within the zone you can attach a record, you can add a record. So here you can say new RG, you can call it as say RG DNS, right? And what is that DNS zone you want to create? Right? Here is the question, like what is the zone you want to create? So this DNS zone is nothing but the domain you want to create, right? And that's nothing but this one here. So whatever the DNS you want to create. So for example, www.com. I want to call my company as www.com. So where is the location? So I want to put it under East US and then create. And this will become external DNS. Right? Anybody wants to hit www.com, what happens? It will come to my DNS here and gets resolved. Right? So likewise you can create a DNS, and obviously you need to register it, right? So you need to register in the sense somewhere you need to purchase this public domain, right? You need to procure it. So once you procure a IP, public IP, then you can add these 4 records in your registrar with your registrar, DNS registrar. From there, what happens? Anybody hitting www.com will go to the hosting provider. From there, you are pointing these 4 DNS addresses, and then it will come here. Actually, it is residing here, but you are actually depending on the registrar. From there, it will hit it, and it will come here to get resolved. So here it will use .com, right? DNS.com means my www.com is registered under DNS.com of Azure. So likewise, these are the 4 DNS name servers. We will use it in Azure. Likewise, you can create your old child zones also, or you can also directly create records. So likewise, depending on the need, you'll be adding the records here, right? So here, what record you want to add? So whatever name. So this is again your application name, right? Application name @wws.com, right? So that will become your DNS entry, right? And when you want to host this one, right, it should have an IP. And where are you hosting that IP? So that IP, again, you are hosting it in your apps, right? So that app will get an IP, and that IP you should put it here and hit OK. Then what happens? Anybody hitting the IP address of that app it will get resolved to www.com, and from here it will fetch the IP address of the app and resolves it to the name. Means it will resolve name to the IP. Then it will get the app loaded. Means ultimately, when I want to post something, right? So a post letter should have proper name and the address, right? Only then it will reach the destination. Similarly, in the internet world, anybody hitting the app, that app should be located. It has to be located. How can I locate it? With the help of DNS. So DNS has to provide me the path of the app. So my app is running in Azure. If it is running in Azure, here itself I need to name the app. Once I name the app, then definitely a name should have an IP, and IP to name is maintained by this zone as a record. So this way it will maintain all the records. Different types of records are there here. A record, quad record. Quad record means it's for IP version 6. And CNAME. CNAME is again a canonical name, we call it as a duplicate name for your site. Like MX record, Exchange record, name server record, service record, TXT record, PTR record. These are all part of your DNS records. Every record will have one purpose here. So you need to just go through those significance of these different types of records here. Then you'll get an idea. But mostly what we will do, we will use CNAME, A record, and text record. So these are the three records we'll be using mostly, right? But ultimately, creating a DNS entry will not give much feel here. Instead, we have to use our own DNS entry in the registrar, with the registrar. Then you'll get the feel. The other day I was showing you, right? Refer that video, then you'll get an idea. But creating a DNS, it's pretty straightforward here. And ultimately, when you talk about your lab, right? So this, your lab says to create, close it, okay. So number 4, right? So here you have two tasks here: configure DNS for internal name resolution and configure DNS for external name resolution, right? So if you say task 4 here, what it says, sorry. Yeah. So configure internal name resolution. So what it says, internal means private. Private means you have to create another private zone here by going to DNS here. Like here we have created an external hack. Actually, this is external. And same way, if you want to create an internal, what you can do, you can create just type DNS here and say private DNS. And here you can create your own DNS now. So here this will be your own company domain name, which is not passing through the internet. This is within the Azure itself, right? So mostly what happens, what name do you use it here? Whatever domain name you have used it for Azure AD, you'll be using it here, right? So here I'm just using the same thing here, wws.com, right? So this is my internal, and say review and create, and you can use it wherever you want, right? So I can say DNS and say review and create. Creation is easy, right? Like any other resource, it's very easy. Create it. And once you create it, and this is what is needed, like when I say private DNS, and this is important in Azure. So when I say that, this is again internal. So when I say internal, for example, here you have VMs, right? Here you have VMs, and all VMs will be part of this VNet and subnet, right? So likewise, this VMs, if you see these VMs, their names will be like this. Like for example, private DNS I created it, right? So this is my DNS, private DNS, and I'm calling it as wws.com. Then what happens? My VM names will be VM1, VM2, and VM3, right? Here they will have @ wws.com @wws.com @wws.com. So likewise, my VMs will be sharing the domain namespace. Then what happens? It will be easy for them to identify themselves. A VM can talk to another VM easily. A VM can talk to another VM easily because they are belonging to one single family. So that is the goal here. And if you want to make it happen, then what you can do, you can create your own private DNS. And in this private DNS, what happens is you need to link the virtual network. Right? You have to link it. Means you have to have a virtual network. So once you have a virtual network in place, then you can link it. So let me create a virtual network here, and then I'll show you how to link it. Right, so I'll just go ahead and create one virtual network for us. Right. So I want to go with this the first name. Right. So this single command will create a VNet and a subnet. I'm just checking to which subnet am I connected to. So now I'm connected to this one. So, and I want to see what are the resource groups I have. Right. So this is how I can check my resource groups. What resource groups I have. Once I see, yeah, I don't have a resource group for VNets, right? So what I'll do, I'll say AZ group create -n, and I'll say VNets East US. And where do I want? I want it in East US. I'm creating a resource group now. So once I create a resource group, then I'll create a VNet and a subnet within it. So here I'll just modify the RG name. Right. I'll just make it as RG VNets. RG VNets -East US. So this is the RG I've created just now, right? This is the name I've given. So I'm using the same name to create my VNet and the subnet. So this easy it is to create RG. Okay, sorry. It should have been RG actually. RG VNets East US, right? So just enter. So this is how I can create a VNet and a subnet within it. And once I have that, then I can associate it with the DNS what I've just created. So these are the resources I have in my company now. What are those? This is private DNS and the public DNS. And here, if I go to this one, and then I have to link my VNets. The moment I link my VNets, what happens? Any VM created within that VNet will get registered with this DNS. Automatically, it will create a record here, and it will have the full name here. What is the full name? This name, vm@wws.com. So that way I can create my own DNS, and it will be easy for me to monitor and easy for me to administer all those VMs. Right? Once the VNet gets created, yeah, VNet and subnet got created. So now what I'll do, first thing, I will link it. So here I'll say virtual networks, add, and here P private DNS link, private DNS link. This whatever meaningful name you know it, you can do that. And here select the VNet what you have. So this is RG. It's not discovering yet. So let me let me wait for it to show up here. So this is my VNet, right? So same VNet, I can link it here. So I'll say DNS, and this is the private DNS, and I'll go inside and link it here. Link. So it says don't use hyphens. Right. Letter or a number. It says maybe. Yeah. So once I do that, then I'll have to choose the VNet here. So VNet is still not discovered. So I have to wait for it to discover. Once it discovers here, I need to choose it. And once I choose it, then enable auto registration. Once I do this, what happens? All my newly created VMs will get the a record created on the DNS. So that is the goal here between private DNS. In the private DNS. So that is the power of private DNS. Private DNS will let my VNet VMs to get registered within it, and that way all the VMs will have entries within the DNS, and then this DNS will help VMs to locate each other easily without again going outside of the virtual network. Right? Within the VNet, they will look for each other. So that is called private DNS. So I'm repeating here, right? So this is your VNet, right? If you are having a DNS within your VNet, then we call it as private DNS. Then all the VMs, right? All the VMs, if they want to talk to each other, right? First they will contact here. First they will look for the private DNS and will ask, hey, I'm looking for VM2, VM3. Do you have it? Then the private DNS says, yeah, here you go. This is the IP address. And likewise, my VM will obtain the IP address of the VM3 and connect to the VM3. So that way, these VMs are not passing through outside of the Azure. They're not going outside of the Azure to get the DNS entry. But otherwise, what happens? Since the DNS is hosted by the providers, right? That's again internet-based DNS, and this is private. We are learning about the private DNS. Most of the companies will have private DNS, right? So it is still taking time here. Any questions so far?
Naran, this private DNS means this is available within what you call LAN site, something like that.
Correct. It's like LAN only. This is because it is associated only to the LANs. But if we are not calling LANs, yeah. Instead of calling LANs, we are calling it as VNets.
Okay. So it is only accessible to those virtual machines configured to this VNet, not any other.
I mean, it's how many VNets you have here. Based on that, you need to configure this. See, ultimately, your VMs. Like for example, you have VM1, VM2, VM3, and what is their FQDN here? How will they get their FQDNs? Right, fully qualified domain name. How will they get it? They will get it from the private DNS. Because you are actually linking VNet here, and this VNet has a subnet, and this subnet has got IPs, and these IPs are again obtained from here, right? It will obtain IPs from this subnet. The moment it is obtaining subnets from here, you are actually linking here. When you are linking it here, what happens? All will have the same domain name here, wws.com. Automatically, a VM will get registered at the rate wws.com, right? So once you have entries here, once you have linked it, it's like a one-time investment, not every time, right? See what we have done, we have just created a private DNS and we have done nothing actually. So once you create it, then the second step is linking it. So once you link it, and it's slow, I told you, it's only one-time investment, not every time. We won't be doing it every time, right? So yeah, sorry, this is again coming, right? Is it the same thing? Yeah. So here I call it as this is the link I call it as, right. So this is the link I'm calling it as, and once you choose the required subnet here, right, I mean the required VNet, and then okay, that's it. And it's like one-time investment, means I have linked this private DNS with my VNet, and it's like a one-time investment. The moment I do that, what happens, I can go ahead and create virtual machines, and their virtual machines are again flat names, not the domain names. And as a result, whenever I create, it's getting created actually, whenever I add a new VM, automatically it will get the record created here. So here, because I chose it, right, so for example here when I linked it, right, when I linked it here, I chose it to enable auto registration. That means whenever I add a VM in my VNet, it will get www.com as its extension automatically. So that is the goal here, nothing much, right? So for example, I'll go ahead and create a VM here. So what I will do, I will just create a VM within it, right? So I will just add just to speed up things, I'll just use this commands to create a VM here. And here what I want is, I just want to create a VM, right? So just modify these things here. So here my resource group is not this one, right? So it will be, what is the resource group we created here? We have created the resource group called this one, right? So I'll just go ahead and add it here, right? And what is the subnet prod we gave, right? So I will use same thing here. So VNet prod east US I've created. So here I'll say prod, and also I'll say subnet prod east US, right? So I'll just replace it like this. So once I do this, I can go ahead and create a VM here, right? So once I do this, a VM gets created. So if you notice, did I add any extension here, VM extension here? Only just VM name is there, right? It doesn't have the domain name, right? So the moment this VM gets created, what happens is automatically there will be a new record here. For example, the VM is getting created here, right? It will show up here shortly. And if I go back to the VNets here, sorry, DNS, the moment I go to the DNS, what happens? There an A record will get created. Right. So here if I just go to DNS, which DNS my private DNS owns, right? So here inside this, see here PPS VM record got created here. Do you see here? I don't know what it is. Right? So shortly what happens is, you will see another record here. So you will, this VM, this record will change actually. You see, right, this name, you will see VM name, whatever VM name we have given will be added here. Shortly you will see that. If you keep on refreshing here, see, this is the name, you will see it here. And this VM will have what? Name like this. Can you see here? VM name dot wws.com will be the DNS name. What record is it now? A record. So what IP does it have? 10.0.0.4. That way, whenever any VM wants to talk to another VM, it requires an IP address. Where will it get the IP address of the destination VM? It will get it from the DNS. Here itself you will have the DNS address. If you create a second VM, for example, right? If I just create a second VM here, so automatically, because I linked it, right? I linked the VNet with the DNS with the VNet. So that is the reason what happens. Whenever a new VM gets created, automatically it will get registered with the DNS. This is private DNS. That way what happens, this DNS will maintain records of all my VMs, and whenever any VM wants to talk to another VM, it will get the IP from this private DNS. It is not passing, it is not going outside of the Azure, right? It is within the Azure. That is the reason we call it as private DNS. And again, you have to link it. So whatever, no matter how many ever VNets you have, and no matter how many ever VMs you have, and if you want their extension as www.com for their DNS names, then definitely you have to add it, you have to link it. So currently we have only one VNet, right? We have linked only one VNet, and that's the reason you will see any VM added to that particular VNet will get added, will have a record here added. Right? So here, as soon as you see, you are getting the second VM record also. See, it's getting 5 IP addresses. So that's about your private DNS. Same public DNS also, same thing. There is no difference. But again, public DNS happens in internet, and this private DNS happens within the virtual network. That's the only difference. If I just refresh it again, it will get the new record here. See, VM2 got the IP address of this one. If I go to the VM2, you will see the name of the VM is this one. That's it. But if you refer your lab, it will tell you step-by-step process, how to verify, how to validate this and that. It will show you a lot of items here. You just go through it. And again, external also. It will show you some external DNS also. So, yeah. Yeah, so it says just do an NS lookup. So once you do an NS lookup, you will get the domain name and the name server one. So like you have step-by-steps given here, you can follow that as well, right? But ultimately, you are playing around with records, DNS records. Both the places you are adding same thing, right? Any questions here?
Here we are doing public and private domains and connecting to one virtual network, and we are adding virtual machines to this virtual network. So in this situation,
no. So see, we are not connecting public and private. We are not connecting anything like that. We are actually separating things.
Yeah.
Right. So we are actually see public. I don't have control, right? When I say public.
Yeah.
These are maintained by the public DNS providers, like domain registrar, right? At bluehost.com, godaddy.com, they will maintain these things.
Yes.
Within my network, I am maintaining same thing. I am maintaining it here, and I am calling it as private DNS. This is how they maintain, and this is how I maintain. Simple. All the time, you will need a record, text record, pointer record, and CNAME. These are the only 4 records you will be needing every now and then, because these are the 4 records will have all that information. Right, so each record is meant for one purpose, right? Text record, right? Text records we will use it for service to IPs information, and a record will have name to IP information, and PTR record will have IP to name information, and CNAME will have alias record. Alias means a duplicate name of your this one, a record. You can have one IP and you can have multiple names for that, right? So that's again a record. I mean CNAME we call it as. So likewise, you can maintain whatever types of records you want. You can maintain it here by going to your DNS, right? So this is my DNS, and here itself you have zone, your private DNS here. And here itself you can create your records. If you want to host some other services within your company, you can use this one. So this is like a platform as a service DNS. Simple. You are not actually, in order to get this DNS role right, you need to spin up a VM, and in that we have to install DNS roles and play around. But here you are not doing that. Azure is giving you that service, so you are actually making use it as a just like a service and getting the same benefits. So that is the goal here, right? See, in order to get this DNS role, you need a VM. You need to install Windows 12, 16 or 19 server and then install DNS role on it. But here you are not doing it. Azure is providing you directly. So same thing you can implement it here. Whatever we do it on a server, we can do it here, which will eliminate all my server role actually. There is no need to maintain a VM. There is no need to maintain a license for the VM, operating system, patching, this, that. Nothing is required, right? So this is a very light version of the DNS. You are getting DNS server role and over. So likewise, what happens whenever a dev VM1 wants to talk to dev2, it will first see wws.com. Hey, wws.com, do you have any information about VM2? Then the wws.com says, yeah, here you go, 10.0.0.5 is the IP address of the 2. Then the VM1 will take that VM5 IP and connects to VM5 without having to go out of my cloud, right? Because this is within the cloud, private. So this is how we will use DNS for Windows workloads. Mostly it is especially meant for Windows workloads, right? So likewise, it's all about DNS. Right. So when I say custom domains, again I told you, right, these are especially custom domains are especially used for my Azure AD and applications. And yeah, DNS zones, we use it for public purpose. Public DNS, if you have, then definitely you can use this DNS. And then you have what is that, records. So records, again, a record is set of collection of records in a zone that have the same name and are the same type. Nothing but you will maintain your own app name here and the IP address of that app, and then definitely anybody is trying to access that app with the URL, they will be getting the IP. They, in the sense, browser will be getting the IP, and using that IP, it can reach the service. So likewise, whenever you are implementing private DNS, this is what happens. So VM1 wants to talk to VM2, and this again will send a request to private DNS, and the private DNS will serve it back the IP address of the VM2, and then the VM2 will use that private IP and connect to this VM. So that is a funda here, right? So private DNS zones, if you have multiple zones, yeah, definitely you can think about multiple zones, or if you have any multiple VNets, but ultimately we have seen the registration process, right? So first what happens, DNS resolution in VNet1 is private and not accessible from the internet. That we need to note. And DNS queries across the virtual networks are resolved, means only within the VNets, because VNets again will have subnets and subnets will have VMs, and all VMs are getting registered with the DNS, and this because it's linked with this DNS, and since it's linked with DNS, every VM will be getting a domain name automatically, and as a result one VM can recognize the other VM, thinking that it is all same family. That way DNS will help VMs resolve the IP to name to IP. So that's all about your DNS here, right? So yeah, you can go ahead and implement this lab, fourth lab, right? And same way we have something called, but again, before going there, I just want to get into core VNet concepts here. So whenever you say VNet, right? So this is my VNet 1. I have created VNet 1 here, and this becomes a hub VNet, right? Whenever I spin up my first VNet, it becomes a hub VNet, and whenever I spin up another VNet, this is VNet 2, and this becomes a spoke VNet. and whenever I spin up another VNet here, this is again also spoke VNet, and whenever I create another VNet here, right, VNet 3, and this will also become spoke VNet, means all spokes are connected to the hub, and this hub is again a central VNet, means a VNet 3 wants to talk to VNet 2, it will pass through this and talk to this, and again VNet 1 wants to talk to VNet 3, it will pass through this VNet and talk to this, right. Then if you don't want any VNet, you can take out this VNet. Adding and removing of the VNets to a hub is easier. So that is the reason most of the companies, what they do, they will implement this hub and spoke technology, right? Sorry. What do I mean by that? Let me bring back the architecture here. So just give me 1 second. Yeah, so this is yeah, this guy. Can you see here? See, whenever I am building my first VNet, it is called hub VNet, and later what I will do, I will add the second VNet, third VNet, fourth VNet, and then I will connect them to the central VNet. That way what happens, if my on-premises wants to talk to VNet 1, it will pass through this VNet and connect here. Any communication will actually pass through this hub actually. So that is the reason we call it as hub, central VNet. So likewise, you can have any number of VNets created around your subnet, around your hub VNet. So if you want to add or remove, it will give us flexibility, right? Means any company you take, they won't be having only one VNet, they'll be having hundreds of VNets sometimes, right? When they have more number of VNets, then how will you enable communication between VNets? That is again, we use hub VNet and spoke VNet with the help of VNet peering here. Here, a VNet is collection of subnets, and subnet will have all different. See here, this is one subnet I have, this is another subnet I have, this is another subnet. 3 subnets are there, used for different workloads. And now, for example, a VM coming from on-premises wants to talk to a VM which is there in the spoke VNet, and for that purpose, what I have to do, I have to establish connectivity between on-premises to Azure with the help of VPN gateway or ExpressRoute, and then I need to establish connectivity between another VNet here. So this is again VNet 2. So this is VNet 1, VNet 2, and VNet 3. So whichever VNets I want to connect, I can connect it, and so that this VM can talk to the VM here with the help of peering. Ultimately, peering is a process of connecting VNets together with the help of Microsoft backbone cable. This will be your Microsoft backbone cable, not the regular internet, right? So from here to here, it can be internet or Microsoft backbone cable, and from between VNets within the Azure, right? These are within the Azure. When you are connecting VNets within the Azure, that means you are depending on Microsoft backbone cable. Using that, you are peering them. You are connecting this VNet to this VNet so that this VMs can talk to this VM, and this VMs can talk to this VM, and this VNet can talk to this VNet, and this VNet can talk to this VNet. But ultimately, you need to come up with peering here, and peering is possible between. So for example, you have East US, right? Within East US, you have Azure, and if you have 2 VNets you want to connect, VNet 1 and VNet 2 if you want to connect, and this becomes regional peering, right? Because both VNets are in the same region and you want to connect with these 2 VNets, this becomes regional peering. And same way, if you want to peer across, right? So for example, you have Azure located in West US, right? And now you want to connect this VNet to VNet 3, right? right? If you want this model, then what happens? It's called global peering, because these are in different regions, east region and west region. Means any VNet within the same region, we call it as regional peering. In any VNets beyond region, across globes, then we call it as global peering. Right? It's very simple, right? So if you want to see this lab here, we can do that lab very quickly. It doesn't take much time. So what I want is I will go with this internet intra-site lab here, right? So here, if I want to go with this lab, what are we going to achieve? Let us see here. Final outcome of that lab would be this one. Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
So far we have seen the concepts of VNets, subnets, public IP, private IP, and NSGs and so on, right? With those fundamentals, with those foundation, what we are doing is we are getting into a bottom line of it, right? So if I take you to the bottom line of it, right? So here, this is what happens when we go with peering here. So what happens is, I'll create VNet 1, VNet 2 and VNet 3. Means numbers are different actually, 0, 1 and 2, but verbally I'm saying 1 and 2 and 3 VNets I'm going to create. And after creating these 3 VNets, I'm going to create each VM in each VNet, 3 VNets with 3 virtual machines. And this virtual machine will be able to talk to this VM, and this virtual machine can talk to this VM, and this virtual machine can talk to this VM, and this virtual machine can talk to this VM. Like ultimately, I am going to peer them like this. VNet 1 can talk to VNet 2, VNet 1 can talk to VNet 3, and VNet 3 can talk to VNet 1, and VNet 3 can talk to VNet 2, and VNet 2 can talk to VNet 3, and VNet 2 can talk to VNet 1. Likewise, 6 ways I can implement peering here, right? So here ultimately, VM of one VNet will be able to talk to another VNet. So this becomes my, see, first VNet and second VNet I'll be creating it in East US, and third VNet I'll be creating it in West US, and I'll be creating a VM in West US only here. This one also goes in West US, and these two will be in East US, and East US VM will be able to talk to this VM over Microsoft backbone cable, right? So here, if you see, this is the diagram we are going to achieve with this lab actually. So for example, if I drive this lab, for example, right? So I don't want to. Yeah, so I'm doing my fifth lab 5 here, right? So here, what is it saying here? What are you going to do? Provision the lab environment, configure local and global VNet peering, and test inter-site connectivity. So that is what we are going to achieve here. So here we are using ARM templates. So once you use ARM template, what happens when you deploy this ARM template? It is actually going to create a VNet and a VM within, VNet and a VM within, VNet and a VM within. That's the reason it doesn't take much time for us to implement it. So for that purpose, what I need lab 5 here. If you see here, lab 5 ARM template I need. And again, for that, what I need, first I'll clean up the existing environment here, right? I'll just go ahead and clean up the RGs here. So I'll just say this will clean up my entire lab. And I will clean up everything from here altogether. It will be better, I guess. Right. So this is going to clean up my entire implementation, whatever we have done so far. Now lab seems to be clean now. There is nothing in a moment. You will not see anything in all resources. Once it is done, then we are going to go with this model here. Right. So here, nothing complicated here. So I'm going to create VNet 1, VNet 2 within the same region, and I'm going to create a VNet within West US, outside of the region. And implementing peering between these two VNets, make it as regional peering, and implementing VNets between 2 different regions makes it as global peering. We call it simple. And this peering happens on the Microsoft backbone cable, that you need to remember. this is again Microsoft fiber optic, I told you, right? And it happens on fiber optic. So whatever peering you do it, it happens over there, right? So once this gets cleaned up, I think we are good. Right? So I mean, this will not stop me with my work actually. So what I will do, I will take my lab here, right? So what is it saying first? What are the goals here? 3 tasks. First, provision the lab environment. So this is again provisioning the lab environment. It says go to portal, open Cloud Shell, and after opening Cloud Shell, it is saying to load the lab5 files, parameters.json and the template.json, load it into Cloud Shell. So that's what it's saying. So go to portal here. I'm going to portal, opening Cloud Shell here, right? Once I go to Cloud Shell here, yeah, it's loading now, and this will create a storage account for me to help me mount something on it, right? So I'll say go ahead and create it. Sorry. Right. So any questions so far? The mount point is getting created, and this is billable. See, you have no storage account mounted, it is creating it, and this mount point is billable. And if you want to run this Cloud Shell, you need this one. You need to create a mount point, and that mount point will be running on a storage account, and that is a billable resource. And once this is done, you can just maximize it here, right? And meantime, what you can do, you can just keep a notepad ready here, right? Once you keep a notepad ready here, then you'll be seeing a prompt. Once you see the prompt, I already shared you the ARM template in your shared folder, right? If you have not accessed it, go and download it into your local machine. I have already done it, and this is my local machine. And here, if you see number 5, this is where I have parameters.json, template.json. These are the 2 files I need to upload it here in my shell. So for uploading here, I'll click on upload files here, and here these are my lab 5, right? So here I can upload only one file at once. First I'll upload template, and then I will upload the parameters. So my template got uploaded, and now I'm uploading the parameters, right? That's it. So once 2 files have been uploaded, you can say dir here, right? So once you type dir, it will show you the uploaded files here. So once you have these files here, right? So once you see them here uploaded here, then what you can do, go back to your lab here, right? So go back to your lab. So what does lab say? I've uploaded this number 4, I have done it. And then it says number 5, run the following to create the first resource group that will be hosting first virtual network and pair of virtual machines. So replace Azure region 1, right? So what I will do, I'll just copy this code and put it in the notepad, right? So here I will mark it as EastUS, right? I will mark it as EastUS, and once I do that, what I will do, I'll simply copy this entire code here. I'm not changing anything here, just to not to confuse or confuse myself, right? I just want to test it, right? For testing sake, I can use the existing lab recommended names. So means I'm actually creating a resource group here. I'm saying AZ resource group and pick the resource group from this variable, and this is the location here. Just putting the variables here, nothing much. So with this code, I'm creating a VNet. So not here, sorry. So you should you can do there also, right? So here, right click and paste it and enter. A resource group gets created, and it's created now. Again, go back to the lab here, and what is your next step here, fifth step. So here from the cloud pane, run the following to create first VNet and deploy a virtual machine into it by using the templates. Means the moment I run this code, it is going to create me a VNet, and also, let me bring this guy here, and also right, so it is going to create me a VNet and also subnet and a VM within. So here, so what is that I have already defined? I have already defined the location here. So here, what is it doing? A new resource group deployment where it is picking up the template file and the parameters file from the directory where I have already uploaded, right? And it is running a job there. And with that job, what happens? It will go ahead and create the VNet VM, VNet subnet and the VM. So just say right click and paste it. So the moment you hit enter, done. So it is going to do that for me. So now next seventh step. So seventh step says, yeah, follow this code here, just follow, just run it, that's it, nothing much. So it is going to create my second resource group. What is that resource group here? Here we have RG0, here you have RG1, and same location it is going to use it. I don't care. So I just want to use it in the same location, right? So I'll go back to the Cloud Shell here and I'll say paste it, create, and the new second resource group has been created. And then in that resource group, I'm going to create my second VNet and again second VM in that. So I will use the same thing here, right? So here it's going to create me a new VM in the second VNet. So for that purpose, again, I'll go back here and run it here. Enter. That means, what did I do now? Just now, what did I do? I have done this. I have built VNet 1 and built VNet 2 and VM and a VM. So this region is now over now. East US region is now ready. Means it's getting ready. So now thirdly, what I'll do? I'll create my second region here, second resource group, right? So here I will change it as West US, right? And here if you see, it's keep creating the RG2, RG0, RG1 and RG3. I'll just copy this code here and run it in the shell. That's it. And my RG has been created. Again, I go back to the lab here. Now I'm building my third VNet with third VM, right? Paste it here, enter. That's it. So that means we have created all the required lab here, right? Wait for deployment to complete before proceeding to the next step. So you have to give it some time here to let the deployment complete. And then what you have, configure local and global work VNet peering. So this is where we need to start our work. Now we have provisioned the lab. Now we have labs in place, and now we want to configure peering here. What is the peering? These lines, right? These things I need to implement. If I want to implement that, then definitely this is what I want to implement actually, right? So now this is ready, and this is ready. Three instances are ready with three VNet, subnet, and again VMs. Everything is ready. Now these lines are not there. Means I need to connect them. Right? This connectivity is not there. Means this VM cannot talk to this VM, and this VM cannot talk to this VM because we have not implemented peering. So now we are going to implement peering. So again, go to the lab here. So configuring global and local peering is again here. So what it says, number 3, go to VNet 0, right? Go to VNet 0 and supply all these details on the right hand side, whatever you have here, right? So just pick up all these things and put it in the portal. That's it, nothing much. So you can minimize this Cloud Shell portion, you can minimize it, and now you can go to your virtual network. You can see all 3 virtual networks created now. So 2 are in East US and 1 is in West US. Right? 3 are three different RGs. So it says, your lab says, go to your VNet 0 settings peering. So here I'm going to 0. Under settings, there is something called peering here. This is your settings and this is your peering. Click on that, and here you have nothing here. So we need to add it. So once you click on add, right? So here it's asking you to provide the link name. This network to what network is the link name. So get the link name, right? You just use the same names here. Once you understand the concept, you can play around by renaming or whatever convention you want to do it. You can do it up to you. And here, leave everything here. Traffic to remote virtual network, allow. Traffic forward from remote virtual network to here, means 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. And virtual network gateway router, we don't have any virtual network gateway here, right? So here, remote network peering link name. So here you have created peering link name for your virtual network, and this is your remote network name. So that remote network, you can get it from here, right? So here, just pick this up. This is again 0 to 1, 1 to 0. If you see these numbers, right? 0 and 1, and here 1 and 0. So just pick this name here, right? And now scroll it down and see, you don't see the virtual network. So you have to wait for them to pop up here, right? So they will take little bit of time. So once you see the virtual network as per your lab, what it says, go down and select the, so here it says select the virtual network, right? That virtual network, it's not shown here yet. So likewise, I have to wait for the virtual network to show up, and once the virtual network shows to me, then I can, so yeah, so here it shows me which network to which network you want to connect, right? It shows me 0 to 1 and 2, right? 0 can be connected to 1 and 2. It will show me both the networks here. It is not showing me yet, so I have to wait for it to complete. So nothing much I can do. So any questions, meantime, you can ask me. Because it's happening on the backbone cable, right? It won't be immediate. It will take a little bit of time. You have to wait for it to complete. So you should keep on trying it. Go to peering and click on add, and just scroll it down and see whether the networks got discovered or not. If it is not discovered, nothing much we can do, right? We have to wait for it to discover. Alright, so likewise, you need to repeat the same steps for all the VNets. So if you recollect here, right? So this is my VNet 0, VNet 1. So this is again East US, right? Now what do we want to connect? We want to connect to this one, and we want to connect to this one. So this is again peering, we call it as, and this is again regional peering, right? And once you're done with this, then what we do? Global peering, right? Again, this is between West US. So here you'll have VNet 2. Then what are we doing now? We are connecting VNet here, and we are connecting VNet 2 here. In same way, we are connecting this one, and we are connecting this one. Total 6 connections we have to establish, and this becomes your global VNet peering. Then whatever resources you have in that particular VNet can talk to other VNets once you establish connectivity. So that is the power of VNets here, right? So yeah, so we just have to wait for it to discover. Once it gets discovered, then we are good. Click on add again, and here, yeah, it is still not discovered. Yeah, let's wait for some time here, and yeah, let's talk about theory now, right? So Right, so I'm going on top of it here. So we are actually learning about connectivity. So connectivity means how are we going to connect virtual networks, right? And how actually connectivity takes place, right? All those things we're talking about. So to talk connectivity about, we are beginning with peering here. So here in this VNet peering, we have region 1 and region 2. I mean, in my example, I showed you reverse actually. In one region, you have VNet 1 and VNet 2 and 3. In one VNet, you have another VNet. So totally, you are connecting West US with East US. That becomes global, and anything within the region is called regional peering. Ultimately, VNet peering connects to Azure Virtual Networks. Two types of peerings, regional and global. Peered networks use Azure backbone cable for privacy and isolation. That's the power of peering here. I don't need any extra effort, devices, services, nothing, right? It's all inbuilt features. I'm using it. So you can peer across subscriptions. Means this can be in one subscription, and this can be in another subscription, and this can be in another subscription, provided you should have permissions to do that. And it's very easy to set it up. And because Microsoft backbone cable, right, it operates on fiber optic, that's the reason it is very fast, very effective, and secure also. It's your private network, right? So this is what it happens when you have VNet A, VNet B, right? So these two VNets are again directly connected to peering. With the help of peering, you are connecting them, and you don't need any additional resources like gateway. You don't need any gateway here. So these gateways are again useful for on-premises. Means if you have on-premises here, it's running in one VNet, nothing but your VLAN, right? We call it as. If you want to connect your on-premises workloads to Azure, then you need a VPN gateway. With the help of that gateway, you are connecting to your hub VNet. This is your hub VNet, and these are spoke VNets, right? So likewise, you can think about your peering here. And here, for connecting spoke VNets to hub VNet, you don't need any additional devices like a VPN gateway. So this VPN gateway, you can use it as an alternate. This is enough actually. If you want to use, if you want to let your remote users to connect to this hub network coming from different locations, then definitely you can think about VPN gateway. But otherwise, you don't need it. It's required only for your on-premises, and again, when you want to secure your VPN lines, that time it is required. But otherwise, peering will simply help you connect two different VNets, right? So this is what it says when you are configuring your VNet peering. So you need to ensure that allow virtual network access from VNet to 2. Yes. Allow forward traffic from VNet 2 to 1. So if you want to enable, then what happens? Whatever traffic it gets, it will forward it to 1. Reverse. Right? If you are using any virtual network gateway, you need to choose this one. But in our case, we don't use it. If you have it, yeah, definitely use this one. So yeah, so before we go there, what we do, we will see whether my network got discovered or not, right? So I'll again go back to the VNet here as per my lab. I'm going to add here, and directly first I'm checking whether networks got discovered or not. It's still not discovered. They'll take 10 to 15 minutes time actually for discovering. Yeah, it is still not discovered. So any other questions you have? So meantime, let me go over the lab here. So here, same steps will apply between 0 to 1 and 1 to 0, 0 to 2 and 2 to 0, right? Same steps will apply. So you'll be using these names. So first box you'll be using this one, and the last box you'll be using this one, right? And you'll be following the same thing, right? Enable, disable for these settings. Nothing, everything you need to follow this lab, nothing much. Same way you are adding peering between 0 to 2, right? So same steps will apply. And then again, what happens in this one, 1 to 2 you are applying. So likewise, 3 settings you are doing it. Once you do 3 settings, it will become 6 settings. means you are doing bidirectional, not unidirectional. So once you do that, then you can go ahead and test the connectivity. That's it, because we are already having VMs, and you need to go to one of the first VMs, and from there you can try to ping the other VM, connect to 0 VM and try to ping VM1 or VM2, right? And connect to VM1 and ping VM0 or VM2, and connect to VM2 or ping VM1 or VM0. So likewise you can see the connectivity here, and it will be showing you so this is the command for running the connectivity. And once you run this connectivity, it will show you true or false. If it shows true, that means VM will be able to talk to another VM from the other peered VNet. So that is the goal here. But ultimately, this is what we have done now. If you see the last agenda of this lab here, right? So this is what we have implemented. Now we have everything here, but only peering is missing now. I'm just waiting for the peering to get discovered. Means this network should be able to see this network. This network should be able to see this network. That's called discovery. And for that purpose, I just have to wait. So earlier it used to be immediate, and these days Microsoft, I don't know why they are taking a little bit of time. So I have to wait for them to show up. Nothing much I can do, right? So what I'll do, again, go back to the virtual network and go back to VNet 0 and go to peering and click on add, and just scroll it down here and see they're still not showing up. So nothing much I can do. All right, so any questions here so far? Are you guys with me? Yeah. Yeah, once you implement, you'll get to know. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The only thing is, while doing, you just have to put in the resource group name here. I mean, the location name, right? So 2 times you are putting the location names here. So that's it. Once you do that, then you're all set. And after this, did I kick off that third also, or didn't I do that? Wait a minute, let me see that. So not this one. Okay, anyways, let me directly check it, because yeah, so this VM, right, 3 VMs are very much seen here. That means we have done it. 2 are in East US and 3rd is in West US. Yeah, if this disappears, again, nothing much you have to worry about. Just minimize it. Once you click it here, it will come back. And if you are maximizing also, you can just minimize it like this, and again, the moment you click it, it will come back, right? Or if you want to access this shell separately, you can take a new browser and you can say shell.azure.com, and directly you will get a shell in a browser, right? Where again, if you feel like it's disturbing you, like if you want to separate shell, then this is the best option. You can switch around. So again, clicking back here, right, going down, just checking out whether those are discovered or not. Let me publish these things. The meantime, yeah. So going down here, so I'm again populating things here, right, and leaving everything as it is. And the link name, so link name, I'm using this one, right? Second box. remote network. Remote network means you should have remote number first, and then this is the subscription, and this is your resource group. Everything you should have, keep it ready now here, and here you should be able to see the VNets here. Once you see the VNets, then you're all good, but still unfortunately it is still not showing. So only thing is we have to wait for it, nothing much we can do, because Microsoft thinks that I mean they have some timelines here. So the moment I create a VNet, because we are creating a VNet and again trying to discover another VNet over fiber optic, Microsoft backbone cable, right? It's very huge, right? So then definitely that discovery, we should let that discovery happen. Once we let that discovery happen, then we can see them here. Once we see them here, then we can implement it, right? Yeah, I'm repeating again. Yeah, see, now they are discovered now. Can you see here? This VNet 0 can now talk to VNet 1. So I should select VNet 1 here. So before that, what I will do, I'll take the names here. Right, so I'll start from the beginning here. I'm placing my first parameter here, going back to the lab and pick this one. See, 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. These two things you need to pick up from the lab here and come back here and put it in the remote network here section. So what are we doing now? We are connecting 0 to 1. So what discovery I should locate it here? 1. That's it. So once I do that, click add, over. So peering is that easy now. Means we have done bidirectional peering here. I have told VNet 0 to connect to VNet 1 and VNet 1 to connect to VNet 0. So that means bidirectional. So then what happens? Go down here, right? After going down again, it says connect same VNet 0 to VNet 2, it says, but VNet 2 we have seen that it is not discovered yet. So we have to wait for it. So if you click on add here, I'm saying on 0, VNet 0, just scroll it down and check whether 2 is discoverable or not. It is not discoverable, right? So I have to wait for it to show up again. Or if I can't wait, what I can do, I can go to my 2 VNet, right? Virtual network 2, right? So this is my 2, and there I should try to see either 0 or 1. Just scroll it down here and see whether, yeah, 0 and 1 are discovered now. Means on 2 they are discovered, but on 0 they are not discovered. So what I will do, I will implement 2 to 0 now, right? I'll implement 2 to 0. So here what I do, I'll just reverse it, right? All I need is connectivity, right? So what I'll do, I'll just use the reverse case here. Right. That's it. So 0 to 2 means being in 2, I'm establishing connectivity between 0 and 2, and from being in 2 to 0 and 0 to 2, and once you're done with selection everything, then click on add, over. And same way, being in the same VNet 2, what I want, 2 to 1. So I'll just go back here, right? So I'll select this one, reverse, because 1 is not discovering 2, right? That's the reason I'm using this way, 2 to 1. And right, and once it is there, right, this is 2, and I should select 1 now and say add. So this is how I have created my peering. And if you go to 0, What peering do you see here? Two peerings you can see here. What is that? 0 to 1 you see, 0 to 2 you see, over. And then same way, if you want to go to one VNet and again peering, you are seeing only 1 to 0, but 1 to 2 you are not seeing, right? It is still not connected yet. Shortly it will show you. Yeah, it is come now. So 1 to 2 done. And then again go back to the VNet 2, you will see 2 more again. See 2 more. That means 6-way connections we have completed. Now all VNets are in place now, and all peering is also in place now. So here, right, so this VNet is connecting to 2, this VNet is connecting to 1, and this what do you call it? This VNet is connecting to 1, and this VNet is connecting to 0 and 1, and vice versa. Ultimately there are 6 combinations. That's what they've done. Now go back to the lab here, right? Just go back to the lab, and what does your lab say? Connect to VM1, right? And while connecting to the VM, it says use your student as the username, password as this one, right? And you need to log into the VM first. So for logging into the VM, what you have to do, since this is your private network, right? You cannot log into this IPs, right? You cannot log into this IPs. Instead, what you can do, you can directly use your public IPs and connect to them. Right. So here, what is the public IP here? Take the public IP and do an MSTAC here, right? And while connecting to it, what it says, use the more choices and use a different account, and here type student, right? And here type the password. So I don't know password, what is it? It's in like P something else. Copy that and again run it here. And meantime, what you do? Take this command here and be ready to enter it into the VM. So that way you can check out the connectivity. Right. So we are logging into VM0, means VM1, and from there we are actually trying to ping the other VMs which are inside other VNets. One is global VNet and the other is regional VNet. So once it loads, what I'll do, I'll just go to Windows here, click it twice, right, and it will open up PowerShell here. Click on this, right. Once you open PowerShell, then you are good to run that command what you have copied, right. That's it. That means it is now checking the connectivity now between your machine, this VM0 and VM1. So 1 means 51, 50 means 0, 52 means 2. It is true. That means 10.51.4 is pingable from, right, is pingable from 50 network. This is your 50 network. 50 network is talking to 51 network. That is true, right? If I say ping and 10.0 sorry 10.51.0.4, it should respond me. It is responding me. Same way, if I want to test the connectivity between this is my 50, right? This is my 50 machine. So 50 machine is talking to 51, fine, and I want to check for 52, right? So I'm checking it for 52 now. It is true. That means connection is open for 2 also. Right. So here you can also ping it like this. Right. 52 is also pingable. That means communication is open between regions and across regions, between regions and across regions. So regional peering is there and global peering is also there. This way I can confirm, means being in 50 machine, I am able to ping 51 machine and 52 machine. 52 is part of West US, 50 and 51 are part of East US. That's what it says. Right? Any questions here? And if you go back to the virtual machines, right? So here itself you can see their IPs 50, 51 and 52. And don't worry about public IPs. Don't ping these public IPs. Public IPs are useful for accessing them, but when you are in your company, you will be using only private IPs, not public IPs. Public IPs are for our convenience to log into the machines, because my network, I don't have any dedicated network, right? I'm accessing them over internet. That is the reason I need public IPs. But ultimately, for testing sake, you need to use private IPs. So public IPs look random, different numbers, all typical numbers. That means public IP. Series, then it's all private IPs. Ultimately, this is what you have in your place. For example, if you want to see the network topology also, you can see it. What is it? Network watcher, right? Go to network watcher and you can see the same thing what we have created here by going to topology and select the resource group. Means 3 resource groups we have created, right? So here it will show you the available things here. So this is again same thing, right? We have created VM within a VM. This is again zero network. 3 pieces we have created. Nothing but the same thing you are seeing it here. This one, and this one. And same, you can select this one also. VNet1. This is again VM1. Same way VM2. This is VM2. So likewise, this way you can get the topology also, whatever you have built. And same thing, you can put it here and add your dotted lines with the PNet peering sign. That becomes your peering architecture automatically. All right, so that's how the peering works here. Right. And yeah, going back to thing here, this is again, there is one more topic called service chaining. So this service chaining, nothing but we are using a VPN gateway in between, and once you have a VPN gateway in between, then you can go ahead and implement this service chaining, right? So leverage user defined routes means whenever you want to implement something called network virtual appliance, and whenever you want to take control of diverting your traffic, then we need to learn about routing, and that routing we will learn when we meet again next week. But ultimately, there is some process called service chaining. That means you are actually enabling your virtual private network gateway to talk to another VNet. Means the VM from this network wants to talk to this VNet, that has to come here and talk to here. Now that way I can enforce. I can implement some routing here. So anytime VNet 3 machine wants to talk to VNet 2, it cannot talk direct, though there is a connection here, but still it cannot talk to it. But still I want to enforce it to come to the gateway and talk to it. That way service chaining will help me protect the traffic, what's happening in the network, and how is it controllable, how is it monitored. All those things are possible within this, especially when you have VPN, network virtual appliance. Not VPN, VPN gateway with virtual network virtual appliance. So this is again we'll see when we meet again next time. All right. So until then, I'm done for the day here. I'm just trashing the lab. If you have any questions, let me know.
And I will share my screen.
Okay, one second. Let me stop this recording here.